In the spirit of the season, we are talking about evil spirits, haunted houses, Halloween, and the like. That's coming up next.
We talk about the church, family, theology, and even entertainment. In fact, if it's Christian, we're talking about it. This is the Mike Charleston Show.
All right, we are here. This is the Mike Charleston Show, and as you can see if you're watching on YouTube, this is a different setup.
Yeah.
And it's maybe a little bit more comfortable for us. We have no pillows, and that's an inside joke. Yeah. And so we are sitting across from each other so we can actually look at each other. We have no idea where the cameras are, though.
Yeah.
And so anyway, this will be good.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
one's
trust
yours.
the producer.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, we got cameras all over the place, lights. We don't know how this is going to turn out, so we're just going to try it. We actually cleaned up. That's what we had to clean this up. We haven't vacuumed and cleaned this area in like 6 months.
Well,
that's what happens when guys are in charge, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, so we are joined today with Chuck and Larry.
hi guys.
Hey.
Hey, and Sarah's over here. Hopefully not
Hi.
blocked by any of the cameras and such. But all right. Well, we were talking about doing this show, and we didn't want to I hate to do things that are current because podcasts and YouTube channels, they're not necessarily on time. You know, people listen to these things anytime.
Right.
But we thought, you know what? Let's go ahead. I'm kind of, I see a movement in the church and I don't like it. And I thought it was appropriate to talk about it. I know this coming week, is it?
Weekend.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it? Really?
I think so. Yeah.
What is today's date? Oh, wow.
Well, by the time this will air, it'll be the day.
Yes. Okay. Well, yeah, isn't it on Monday?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so when it airs, it'll be Halloween, and we are going to be talking about Halloween and such, the evil spirits, and that's what kind of started this, was more of the evil side. And I don't like to talk about the evil side so much.
No.
But it is necessary because a lot of people just think it's fun and games, and it's not fun and games. It's a serious deal, and I thought we should talk about it. So why don't we go ahead and just jump right into it if you guys are ready. We got a lot of notes, and hopefully we can get into this. We're going to have some history, and we're going to make fun of some other ministries. Okay, maybe not that part, but we will point out some things. All right, babe, why don't you start us off here? We got Ephesians 6:12. Why don't we get started with a Bible verse?
It says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places."
Yeah, this is a good verse. This is kind of explains it. Now, here's the tricky thing about all this. The Bible's not very clear on all these things. There's a lot we don't know about the spiritual world.
Yep.
But we do know there is a spiritual world.
Right. Yes, there is.
Just like this verse points out, that a lot of our battles are not with physical. It's a lot of spiritual things that are going on that we don't see. And maybe there is a time where God can open our eyes and we could see, like Elijah. Was it Elijah? And actually, Elijah wasn't the problem. It was his servant. And the servant was like, "We're surrounded." And he's like, "God, open his eyes." And there was a bunch of angels protecting them. And we're not privy to that world.
No.
We have physical eyes and we see physical things. And every once in a while, they enter into our world for whatever reason. Angels, demons, they come in and out. But this verse let us know that they are our enemy.
Right.
That's what we wrestle against. We wrestle against these evil forces in the world. What else do we have there, babe?
1 Peter 5:8 says, "Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour."
Oh, so there you go, Larry. So he walks about, right?
Yeah.
He's walking about. We were arguing, we were discussing whether do demons actually dwell in places, and we'll get into that a little bit. But he does roar. He walks around.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Not just
that's
on
true.
Halloween either.
Oh, no.
He's walking around, and he's looking.
Only one day a week.
That's
or one day a year, I mean, sorry.
Well, one day a week would be nice too.
Yeah.
But what do we have there? This is a good story here. 1 Samuel 28. We're not reading the whole chapter. We're just going to talk about the story.
Yeah.
If you want to check out the whole story, go check it out on 1 Samuel 28. But what's the story, guys?
It's the story of Saul.
Saul.
Not Paul.
Yeah, King Saul.
King Saul, not Paul. Disguised himself and went to see the Witch of Endor.
Right. Now, this isn't the Star Wars Endor.
Not
This
the
is a
Star
real
Wars
place. So, not the Ewoks. But he actually went and saw a witch.
Yes.
Right.
And he dressed himself up as a commoner or something like that. Or
He disguised himself because previously he outlawed basically,
Right.
which and got rid of them all.
He's being a hypocrite here, right?
Yeah, he actually had outlawed what he was going to do.
Yes.
He was going to consult a witch, and he said that's against the law. So he disguised himself so he wouldn't be recognized.
It's
by
funny
the
how
witch.
until it served his purpose, then he wanted that service.
Yeah, well, and then so he goes and sees her, sees this lady because he wants to know the future or something
Right.
like that. He needs some counsel, and he wants to talk to Samuel. Samuel was a prophet. Now, this is an interesting story.
Yeah, this is a
weird one.
Yeah, it's weird.
So she's a witch and she can conjure up things. Now, this is important in our conversation later. She had the power to actually conjure up people or images or things. But in this story, she was actually shocked. Like,
Right.
this was not normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, you actually wonder if she realized that. Did she really believe what she was doing? Did she
Right.
really believe she had the power to do that? Or all of a sudden, hey, this actually worked?
This is a real deal.
This is real?
Yeah.
Yeah, she was shocked.
So I don't know, like this was different, something about it. Because Samuel isn't, I mean, he's in heaven, right? He's one of God's righteous prophets here. And he comes back, and it's Samuel himself, and rebukes him.
Right.
And that should scare all of us right there. So you want a Halloween costume, dress up like Samuel. And man, oh man, that would scare anybody because that was a righteous man coming back to say, God has cursed you. Or I forget exactly what he says there. But he's definitely, God is basically removed him as king at that point, right? Is that where it
Well,
starts?
no, it's before that. But basically, it was the battle, and Saul wanted to know how's it going to turn out.
That's right. Yep.
And Samuel said, basically, you're going to die and your sons are going to die.
Yikes. Yeah, you want to know the future?
Yeah.
Boom, there it is.
So
And
it's one of those things, be careful what you ask for.
Well,
You just may get
and
it.
the interesting thing is he goes to a witch, and the witch was shocked. So she was probably used to the fake stuff,
Right.
You know, which has a sense of power.
Yeah.
And but when something real happened like that, it freaked her out. And so anyway, that's a real interesting story. You should read it. So now this is an interesting one you wanted to put on here, babe. So Psalm 91:11.
It says, "For he shall give his angels charge over thee to keep thee in all thy ways."
I was like, is this evil spirits or whatever?
Not evil spirits, but there's angels too, which is part of the whole
Right. The spirit world.
Spirit world.
There's
so.
good and bad. There's a
Right.
good spirit and a bad. Now here's the thing you should know. There's no such thing as a good witch.
Right.
They're all witches.
Yeah.
And then there's no such thing. Well, there's probably a bad angel, but there's good and there's evil. That is for sure. And we have the good spirits, we have bad spirits, and we're going to talk about those here shortly. But this is the big verse that we're going to camp on for a while and describe some of these things. This is Deuteronomy.
Like Leviticus.
No, Deuteronomy.
What is that?
Deuteronomy 18:9-14. So do you want to like read this until you get to something and then we stop? Or
Sure.
Okay, I'll just stop, tap out. Stop. Okay, stop.
Okay. It says, "When thou art
Stop. No, I'm just kidding.
When thou art come into the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee, thou shalt not learn to do after the abominations of those nations."
Okay, stop right there. You should not learn to do the abominations of the nations. Now, a lot of people say, well, this is Deuteronomy. It's the law. We don't have to. This is not like law. He is saying you're not to take upon the abominations of these people. And
Yeah.
so, like,
And some of the things they did were
Terrible.
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know if you want to talk about it now, but
We'll get there.
okay.
Yep.
Didn't want to jump ahead.
Yep. Go ahead, verse
Okay.
10.
"There shall not be found among you anyone that maketh his son or his daughter to pass through the fire."
Okay. That's the first one. So pass through the fire. What is passing through the fire? Did you guys look that one up? Or is that what you wanted to talk about?
Well, yeah, that's
Okay.
what I was going to say.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, basically, child sacrifice.
Right.
Burn them on a fire.
The god of, what was it, Moloch?
Moloch.
And he was, basically you burn up your child for a
Yeah.
sacrifice. I don't know what that would do to ward off evil for whatever.
Well,
like,
sometimes
they didn't
they have-
sacrifice all their children, obviously.
Well, right.
It's just the
Sometimes
bad
they
ones.
had it for planting season. Before the planting, they do a sacrifice,
Right.
in hopes of a good harvest.
Do they
or-
sacrifice the bad ones, or they have to do the good one? How does that work? I don't know. But this was obviously forbidden. Now, you would think this is common sense. Like, I'm not
Yeah,
going
you would
to...
think it would be.
Yeah, I'm not going to sacrifice my kids in a fire. My goodness. Or sacrifice my kids in general. But this was the first one, like don't pass through the fire. So offer for sacrifice, right? Okay, now didn't stop at the verse. We had a comma. So what's the next thing?
"Or that useth divination."
Divination. Okay, these are we're going to cover some interesting words here. So divination, what do we have here for divination?
Witchcraft, practicing or seeking to foresee or foretell future events or hidden knowledge, usually by the interpretation of omens or by the aid of supernatural powers.
Sure. So we had the Oracle of Delphi is like one where these witches would get together, and usually it was drug induced.
Right. There's a lot of that.
But it was the crystal ball. If you know what a crystal ball is, and if you are ignorant to all these things, I am so sorry to open your eyes to some of these things. But this is the pictures of a lot of these things. I remember the Magic 8 Ball.
Oh yeah.
And they were like, you can't use that, and I was like, come on, it's not real, but you're messing with things.
Right.
And I know it's a joke, but that's the sad part is we make light of all these things of tell us the future. Am I to marry this person? The future looks cloudy. But so that's divination.
Okay, then next is or an observer of times.
Observer of time. So this is an interesting way of putting it. Observer of time. So you're like, what do you mean? Like we watch the time? No.
I thought we're supposed to watch.
Yeah, watch the time. So what's an observer of times? Times. Not just time, it's times.
Well, you mean like harvest time, or I'm not sure. Wait.
What, I thought you had something you wanted to say on that one.
I had a thought, but I wasn't sure if that's where you're going or not.
Okay, well, and I just was like, to observe times, to practice soothsaying.
Oh, yeah, okay, fortune telling.
Right, spiritism, magic, or witchcraft, sorcery, fortune telling. They're all like really connected.
The other thing I was thinking about was recently, I guess, I don't know when it was, but they had the blood moon, and people were getting all, these are a sign from God that the blood moon.
Keep track of times. And
right,
foretell the future.
Right.
Everybody wants to know what the future is, man. It's unfortunate, but
what is that? Aristotle?
Yeah.
Well, that one's a fortune cookie.
Yeah, so if you're getting your fortune from that.
If you tie that together, though, I know what it's saying here. We're saying practice soothsaying or spiritism and magic. But you think about if you think about it from observer of times, are we thinking about the seasons, the changes in the moon and the stars, and you start thinking about astrology and where at a particular time this whatever is in whatever constellation, and that's what's causing me to do those types of astrology and bringing those pieces in. That's what I think of when I think of observer.
Well, and that's what we were talking about with especially Halloween. Now we were just discussing about when it all, we're getting the history of it, but there was a belief amongst the pagans that November 1st, actually October 31st, November 1st, November 2nd, that window of time is where heaven and earth, I say heaven very loosely, but the spirit world and the physical world meet. And weird things happen, and they can come. And so in order to do some of these things, they ward off those spirits during that particular time. Why that time? I don't know. They observe certain things, or definitely astrology goes into that.
Right.
I
And
read was the Celtics. Is that right?
Celtics.
Celtics. That's the basketball team.
That's the basketball team.
Same. The Celtics. I'm from Mississippi. I don't pronounce it right.
Using the word.
So
I don't think it means what you think it means.
Actually believe that time period was the beginning of their year.
Right.
Okay, sure.
So it was, the passing from one year to the next, and that's when they thought it was, like you said.
Well, you mentioned astrology, too. They study the planets, Jupiter, and that was all wrapped up in mythology.
Sure, absolutely. Now, all the planets are named after Greek gods and such, for the most part.
So and the changing of the seasons. That's why Easter.
Yeah.
Halloween.
Yeah, they're all connected, all the holidays. Right. Think about them. Okay, we got, what's the number 4 one?
Or an enchanter.
See, now some of these are like, what's the difference? Obviously, there's a subtle difference between divination and observer of times and enchanter. But enchanter is to practice divination.
Yeah.
So, okay, you're like, well, you just said divination. Well, that's the act, I guess. And an enchanter is a person who practices divination, observer of times, learned by experience, diligently observe, practicing fortune telling. So this is like... almost probably like a shaman,
Right, they cast spells.
Right, they can do all that stuff. So what you're saying, what's the difference between that and a witch? Well, we'll go to the next one.
Or a witch.
Or a sorcerer. So it's the same types of things.
Yeah.
These guys are all doing different things. And are all witches women?
No.
Oh, really? Okay, I thought they were. I thought warlocks were men and witches were...
Well, I think of witch doctors.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, that's a shaman. I don't know how you pronounce it. Shaman.
Depends
shaman.
on where you're from.
That's right. I'm from Indiana, so it's shama, but I think it's a shaman. But yeah, that's a witch doctor basically, and a witch doctor. But generally speaking, well, I always thought growing up, maybe it's because of Halloween. I don't know. Witches were women. They were green, and they had warts on their nose and stuff. And
well,
That's usually how they're.
we grew up on TV. There were always women on TV,
that's
right?
right. And but no, witches are like sorcerers and things like that. Okay, what do we have left?
Or a charmer.
A charmer. Now that's not like me when I'm talking to my wife and I'm charming her. But it could be like that, a snake charmer.
She's trapped under your spell.
That's right. Well, that is basically it. An enchanter, a magician. Think about in India when they have the snake charmers. You're putting people under a spell, and you can do that in a lot of different ways. We dress ours up today, and we can put people in
hypnosis.
Hypnosis and things like that. You can charm people. So charmer number 7.
Or a consulter with familiar spirits.
Oh, a consulter with familiar spirits. So a familiar spirit, that's what, what's a familiar spirit? Do you know what a familiar spirit is?
Well, I would think of, to distinguish, familiar spirit would be somebody you're, like maybe a dead relative.
Right.
Somebody you're familiar with.
It's like our spirit, but not really. It's familiar, but it's probably one that's no longer with us.
Right.
And it's a familiar spirit. So a consulter with familiar spirits, like a necromancer, one who invokes the dead, a ghost, a spirit of the dead one. And people are like, oh, so do you believe in ghosts? I believe in evil, and so yes, I believe that ghosts do exist. They're demonic. That's what I believe.
Right.
They're if you ever see one, it's not Casper.
No.
Your friendly ghost. It is a demonic activity. So a consultant with familiar spirits. Okay, what's next?
The next one is or a wizard.
Or a wizard. Now, we see a wizard as a guy who wears a little funny hat with stars and
Merlin.
Yeah, Merlin. That was my grandfather. Merlin. I grew up in Indiana, and the baseball team up there was the Fort Wayne Wizards. And so you had a big wizard, and I always felt very uncomfortable, and he's got the magic, crystal ball and all that. And that kind of went away. So they decided, because Johnny Appleseed is buried in Fort Wayne, that they would call themselves the Tin Caps. Because he always wore a tin cap. Well, the logo was a guy with a pot on his head. So guess what they called him?
Potheads.
Yes. So that went
Is
over
that
well.
any better?
I know. So anyway, the wizard. So a wizard. What is a wizard?
A knower?
A knower. Yeah.
Or someone who has a familiar spirit.
Oh, yeah. We don't want people with familiar spirits.
Right.
Soothsayer and necromancer.
So soothsayer is like someone who's going to tell the time, our future and all that. But also a wizard. We use the word wizard very loosely, and especially in a sport terms. Oh man, did you see him? He was like a wizard. Yeah. He just worked his way through there, and we use it very loosely. But
we just think of someone who works magic.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
And it could be somebody that knew, if you didn't know mixing vinegar and baking soda would cause a reaction.
Yes.
It would look like, ooh, they're magic. Look what they did.
Yes, he can make acid.
Right.
Or
very neutralize and create a reaction.
Exactly.
It makes me think of in the story with Moses, when he went to Pharaoh's court, his magicians did the same. They created a snake.
And look, there's power.
Right.
And that's what people like. Well, I'm a Christian, so I have power over this stuff. And that is true to a point. Right. But there is power of the dark side. Yeah. as we were talking about. Do not underestimate the power of the dark side. But it is real power.
Right.
There is real power. And apart from Christ, you should be scared. This evil in this world wants us. And thank goodness for Christ. And I have no fear of these things. But a wizard, a knower, one who knows familiar spirits, soothsayer, necromancer. Okay, speaking of a necromancer.
That's the last one.
A
necromancer.
The necromancer. What is that, a necromancer?
Someone who practices necromancy.
That's right.
That's right. Wow, very good.
Okay, what's necromancy? Okay. Communion with the dead.
Yeah.
Talking to the dead. Communicating with the dead. And how many of us, we accept that now? Get on these talk shows, and I'm going to contact your dead relative. And it's usually something very vague, you know, he wants to know if you're dog is doing all right. How did you know?
Yeah.
Because everyone has a dog. And how's your back? You know.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's interesting because it says, especially in order to predict the future. But how do, like even Samuel, when Saul called him up, how did he know the future?
How did Saul know the future?
Samuel.
How did Samuel know the future?
Because you call up the dead to try to predict the future, but how do these dead people know the future?
That's a good question because they're dead and they're in the future.
They're outside of time, so now they know.
Right.
Yeah, they pulled him because he got in the DeLorean. I don't know.
I think that story with Samuel is God sent Samuel there, and so Samuel had the message from God.
That is an interesting question because I mean they're outside of the restriction of time,
right?
So that's interesting,
right? So we're not. That's not our world.
No.
So we're kind of ignorant in some of these things, and I think that is the danger, and that's what we really want to talk about. Is a lot of people just jump into these things ignorantly, and it's very dangerous. These things are forbidden by God. And go ahead and just read the rest of the verse.
Okay, it says, "For all that do these things are an abomination unto the Lord, and because of these abominations the Lord thy God doth drive them out from before thee. Thou shalt be perfect with the Lord thy God, for these nations which thou shalt possess hearkened unto observers of times and unto diviners, but as for thee, the Lord thy God hath not suffered thee so to do."
Yeah, so these people, obviously, God hates this. Yeah. And there's some power there, and there's some ignorance. There's a lot of ignorance that people are just like, oh, it's just fun. It means nothing.
Right.
We know this has no power. Are we so sure? I don't know.
Right.
I mean, people. I remember going on the streets in New Orleans. Friend of mine, we would go out witnessing in the French Quarter, and there was a guy who had tarot cards. And if you don't know what tarot cards are, they basically are cards, and he plays them, and he can tell you your future. Yeah, he's I don't know which one of these he would be, a witch, a diviner, diviner, divination, wizard. I don't know. It doesn't matter. And we were talking to him about the Lord, and it was my friend Joe. He would tell something about Joe in his past, and he was bullseye on. And he would tell something about me, and it was bullseye on. And it was kind of freaky. It was like, how do you know this? Right. And he went back and he said a couple things that was just right on. And at the end, finally Joe was having it. He said, well, let me tell you your future. And if you don't repent, you're going to burn in hell. And of course the guy didn't like that, and that was the end of the conversation. But I went home a little shaken by that. I was like, man, that's some crazy stuff.
Right.
And Joe's like, don't be worried about that, man. He's like, they don't know our future. They can know our past. Devils definitely know past and things like that, but they don't know the future. They don't know any of those things. And I'm like, it's a good point. You know, I don't know if they know the future or not, but it's irrelevant. There's no power in there. There's fake power. Right. There's some power there, but there's not the power of God.
Right. No. And that power usually comes with a cost.
Absolutely.
So I think because God tells us about it, but he doesn't go into specifics because we weren't created for that world.
No, right.
It's not for us to know. I mean, we know a little bit, but and all the warnings are, don't go into that world because you don't belong there.
Well, it's interesting that the power was limited because, like, the people with Pharaoh, they could repeat some of the things, but they couldn't get rid of anything. So
they just added to the problem.
And that's pretty impressive for me. I mean, if they can copy blood and they can copy the snakes, I was like, that's pretty impressive. But
no, it's impressive, but it's very limited.
Very limited.
So,
very limited.
I find it interesting that in this passage they have all these things which looks like they overlap because they all mean very similar things. But it's like it seems like God wanted to be very thorough to make sure, well, it's maybe you would be okay going to a witch, but what about a necromancer or all the different labels? So I wonder if today there would be other labels that would be added,
like a psychologist or I'm just kidding.
Anyway,
but no, we dress ours up and put white coats on them and call them doctors and professionals.
Got to follow the science.
That's right. Yeah. All right. Did you want to say something there, Chuck?
No, I'm staying away from that one.
Well, not about that one. You look like you wanted to say something earlier. Okay, the Leviticus. Oh, yes.
Like Leviticus. What is that?
Well, we're about to find out there, man. Leviticus 19:31.
Regard not them that have familiar spirits, neither seek after wizards to be defiled by them. I am the Lord your God.
So don't seek these things out. I mean, it's telling you it'll defile you, and God does not like them. And then he goes on.
Like Leviticus.
What
is that?
20 verse 6.
And the soul that turneth after such as have familiar spirits and after wizards to go a-whoring after them, I will even set my face against that soul and will cut him off from among his people.
Ouch.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. This is so against what God wants. We were talking about this earlier. There is a way to contact the spirit world. There is a way. And that way is through Christ. That is how we approach the throne room of grace. And that's how we have access to the Father, is through Christ. And some people just take that willy-nilly and like, I can just, run and jump on the Father's lap and, call him Abba Father. And that's all true. But do we realize how we got that access?
Yeah.
It was through Christ and his payment on the cross. And it's a very serious deal. You don't just walk into the presence of God.
No.
And so we're only able to do that because of Christ. And we don't command angels. We don't, hey, come here, angel, you do something for me. The spirit world does not necessarily obey us. Now, we can cast out devils. We have the authority to cast out devils and things like that. But we don't conjure up spirits and angels and things like that. If we have the power to do that, you're playing for the other side here, right? You're not playing on God's side, because God has a way of helping us out. He sends angels to help. Yeah. He sends things when it's time. We have the Holy Spirit dwelling in us, so we have access to God to conjure up these things, and we'll have that later on if we can have time to have that quote from Dave Hunt. But why don't we're going to have to take a break here pretty soon, so let's get here. The Bible seems pretty clear that these things are an abomination, right?
Yeah. Right.
It's pretty obvious that this is what these things are, abomination. These things will also defile you, right?
Yep.
And God will set his face against those that do these things. So this is really, really bad.
Yeah, you look at it, you think to yourself, well, Saul knew this, obviously, right?
Yes.
So he understood it, he knew it, he actually created a law against it, but he got to a point where in his life, it didn't matter.
Right. He didn't have trust in God, I guess.
He didn't have, apparently not, because he was like, it's over, I'm done.
Right.
Yeah.
And he just went to find out what the end was going to be.
And it wasn't good. He found out. So we're going to take a quick break. I don't know what kind of game we're going to do. It's
I have no idea.
Game time with Pam this time, Larry's wife. So when we come back, we're actually going to get into Halloween. But I guess, we'll talk about that when we get back. So let's go ahead and take a break.
Thank you for listening. This is the Mike Charleston Show.
Yeah, we are back, and I guess this is a change up. As you can see, we got candy on the table. I'm wondering what's going on here. This is Pam's idea. Welcome, everyone. Pam's here. So,
hello.
Yep. She gets a short chair. Oh, this is game time.
Actually, it's Pam.
It's Pam. Okay, Pam, why don't you go ahead and tell us what is going on?
Okay. We have come up with a little game. Of course, nothing as spectacular as Abigail does. I'm not a replacement.
Sure.
Just to fill in.
We know.
She'll be back next week for all those who miss her. We just came up with a quick little game because I guess y'all were talking about Halloween and
stuff.
Yeah.
Candy? Probably candy. So I just figured,
we didn't get there yet.
It's probably all against what you're talking about, though, because this is not a celebration of any sort for Halloween.
No, this is just candy.
This is just what we could find at the store. And actually, the candy corns, that's all they could find. And those are not traditional candy corns.
No, those look disgusting. Look
actually, they taste better than
funfetti.
Wow, really?
Although I wasn't supposed to eat them. Nobody told me that until after I ate them.
Yeah. But that's okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
They
6, 7,
are
8,
okay. All of you guys are going to guess. This is what we're going to do. Here's the thing.
Okay.
You're going to guess how many are in there
3.
plus 1 because Larry ate one.
Yeah.
So guess.
Oh, I forgot that. I got to have one back.
So guess that, and on your paper. Now you can look at your paper.
I know.
I gave everybody paper.
Can I tell you
paper.
the number? We're not
No,
doing that
you're
yet.
going to write it down. Everybody's going to write it down. It's a blind. So at the top, it's going to say candy corn count. And that is, for those grammar people out there, an alliteration.
What? Oh, wow.
Candy corn count. So write down your candy corn count on your papers.
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
All right. I am ready.
Okay, so you wrote that down, and
Yes.
then
and you're going to hear this.
thing. We can reveal that now if you want, or we can wait and do. We have 2 more parts.
I want to reveal now.
Okay, let's reveal now. Mike, what's your guess?
I said 76.
Am I right or am I right or am I right?
Are you going to tell him if he's right?
No, I'm going to hear them all first.
Okay. I said 153.
Okay.
I knew you were going to say that.
That is so good.
Chuck?
Inside joke. I said 93.
I said 102.
102. Okay.
Is this whoever gets the closest?
The closest, even if you go over.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah,
I like
sorry,
that.
I should have said that. Sorry.
now-
Do you want to redo?
My theory was it's about 25 times 3.16, so it should actually be about 86.
3.14.
Yeah.
Why? 3.16 and it should be.
Okay.
Okay.
That's why you're wrong.
It's a bigger pie. Or smaller, that'd be small.
Wrong
Sorry.
mathematical formula.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. I think Sarah is closest if my figures are right. It's 137.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I gotta quick do this real
Ain't
quick.
she the smart one?
Oh, yeah, she's over here.
Well, ain't she the smart one?
Yes.
So if my calculations are
You
correct,
are.
I did 26 and I do
Oh,
times
mercy.
3.
Oh, we got to listen to the mic math.
Well, Jenna Kate
26 times
counted them for me. So.
3.14 would be 80. Okay, so it'd be way off anyway. So
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, that was.
Yeah, you're like, what, 60
Let's
off
move
or whatever.
on.
So, and you know, you did add the extra one, right?
I did.
Okay.
So how many points do I get for that?
Well, I'm not sure about
That'd
that.
be 1.
Hey.
Where's Abigail? Abigail can, when Joshua edits, Abigail can tell you all the points, I guess. I don't know. Okay, so now we're going to look at these 4 candy bars in front of you, or not candy bars. One's a Whopper. We have Reese's, Whopper,
I
Kit
think you're
Kat,
supposed to keep
and
them in the
Heath.
same order there, Larry.
It doesn't. No, it
around.
doesn't matter.
Okay.
And they're all the same weight. So these are all the miniatures. These aren't even fun size. These are just miniature.
Wow.
Yeah, but it has less calories and sugar that way.
Or yeah.
Okay, so here's what you're going to guess on your paper. You're going to guess which one of these has the least amount of sugar, and write that on your paper.
Oh.
Because I don't want everybody to answer out loud. Because
Well, it says on there though. Okay.
no, it doesn't say anything on these because
No,
it came from a
they're
big
not
bag.
labeled for individual sales.
Yes, it's
so.
yep.
I think I know.
Okay.
Wow.
Least amount
So
of
it says
calories?
least
Well,
amount of least amount of calories is your
the
first
least
one,
and then the least amount of sugar.
Yep.
Oh, not the most sugar. Oh, the most sugar is gonna
Most
be-
sugar's at the bottom, and then the most sugar. So you're doing 3 things.
All right.
A few moments later.
Okay. So who said for least amount of calories? Do you want to say your answer, or do you want me to tell you the answer, and then
I
you can
said
raise your
Whopper.
hand if you got it right?
I said Whopper.
I said Whopper.
I said Kit Kat.
It's Whopper.
Alrighty, I guess
Sorry,
I lost.
I got a point there.
He only did that so it could show it's not rigged.
Oh, very good.
He
Thanks.
took it.
Good job. Took one for the team. Okay, now least amount of sugar.
I said Kit Kat.
I said Kit Kat.
I said Heath.
I said Whopper.
It's Whopper. Good job.
Oh,
Right for you.
Good job. Okay, now which one has the most sugar?
I said the Heath bar.
I said Reese's.
I said Kit Kat.
I said Heath.
Reese's.
Is it Reese's or Reese's?
I think it's
Reese's.
Reese's,
It's
because
Reese's.
it has an apostrophe, so it's
Reese's.
Reese's.
Look, my nephew is named Reese.
And so it's his. It's
Yeah.
Reese's.
Reese's.
Oh, then it's Reese's.
Yes.
Oh, there we go. I don't know. My mom always said Reese's. Because Reese's Pieces.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
But
that's
anyway,
right.
okay, so now on your next section, you're going to guess
Oh.
your teammate's favorite chocolate.
Come on, I want to know what you think.
All right.
Okay, so on their paper, they have.
Can I guess my own?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can, yeah.
I think I'm going to get that one
I'm
right.
gonna see if you get yours right. I'll tell you if you got it right.
They're going to guess who likes which one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we understand.
I just didn't know if the
Right.
audience did.
I don't know,
yeah.
Chuck. Let's see. I'm going
I don't think you're supposed to talk about it.
to. Okay. I think I got it.
That's why it's written.
I got something to say.
Yeah, I got this one.
How I have
know I
no
got at
idea.
least one right.
Say, really?
I
You
don't
have
know
any
what
idea?
yours?
Larry,
Yeah.
like,
I know
Oh,
mine
really?
too.
See, I figured you two
You have a
would know
dizzying answer.
easily, right? You know each other's?
Uh,
I know
Sarah's-
his. I don't know if
yes.
he knows his. But
I know hers.
you
I know hers.
That is great.
Okay.
So they get to go first, so Larry and I know whether we got it right.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Change.
Okay.
Change your answer. Okay, so they can go
For Mike.
first. Did you do yours already?
Yes.
Okay. Sarah, what did you say? Just say all 3 that you said.
Well, no. Why don't you just go with Mike and just say they can
Oh,
say?
okay. Okay,
yeah.
good idea. Yeah. Who's running this show?
It is my show.
It is the
so
Mike
I'm supposed
Charleston
to say
show.
what I think his favorite
Yes.
is.
And
Yes.
ours.
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
His
no, just go ahead. Everyone will do me, and then everyone
Oh,
will do
yeah,
Sarah.
gotcha.
and-
Okay.
Okay.
His favorite is Heath.
I said Kit Kat.
I said Kit Kat.
Give me a break. Give me a break. No, it's a
like,
Heath.
what?
Yeah, Heath. So
Okay.
Sarah got that one right.
Okay. All right.
course I
And
got
so
it
what'd you guess for you?
Heath. Yes.
Oh, you got that right. That's awesome.
All right, let's do Sarah's now. What do you say for Sarah's?
For Sarah, I said Reese's.
I actually said Heath on that one.
I said
I got
Reese's.
messed up.
Oh, okay. So Reese's.
Reese's.
They both
Oh,
got Reese's.
wait.
Yeah.
I said Reese's too, because chocolate and peanut butter are
that's-
meant to be together.
Right.
I knew that.
That's
So
what.
Chuck's here. I don't
Chuck
know
says.
Chuck's.
Really?
Why don't you go first for Chuck?
I said Reese's.
I said Reese's.
Said Heath.
It's Reese's.
It's Reese's. I have no clue how to do all the who won on this thing.
Okay, Larry. What did he say?
Oh, you want me to tell you?
No, I'm going to say Reese's.
I said Heath.
I said Reese's.
Reese's.
Yeah.
Wow, y'all are smart. I just didn't think that y'all were.
Actually, my first thought was
Didn't think it was we were
Reese's
that
for all
smart.
of them.
Yeah, Chuck said, are any of the others candy? Of course it's Reese's.
Wow. Babe,
I was
what's
the
wrong
only
with
one
you?
that because I've
We're
got
all
taste
smart.
buds and Heath bars are pretty good.
Yeah, Heath bars are good.
I don't think you can just eat that.
Why not?
Yeah, there you go. Your winnings are,
I'll take your
and
Reese's.
you get that.
Oh, wow.
But I think you'll like those. They're
Even
actually
though
better
it's
than
not.
the regular.
You think so?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you should try one. Blah.
No, try one.
Not without water. Blah.
No, try it.
Without water?
No, try it. Try it.
Why would you not without
Try it.
water?
You'll
Oh my
like it.
goodness, because it's so sweet. Oh, there we go.
All right.
They actually look nasty.
Funfetti's
I got
come
3
out.
out.
Woohoo! You having one? Trying
You gotta
one?
try one.
I hate candy corns.
Yeah, me too.
I love candy corn.
These are not bad though,
They're not
because
bad.
not
I don't
bad.
like candy corn, and they don't really taste like candy
It
corn.
tastes like
Well, but
vanilla
they're close
sugar.
enough that I like them.
They are close enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
they
didn't know
taste
that.
like candy corn.
Okay.
They don't taste like they look.
No, they don't.
Well,
It's
I
deceiving.
think maybe in the editing there can be like a winner, but
Well, I'm pretty sure I got. If you just count what you got right,
oh yeah, that's true.
then I got 1,
Hey,
2,
Yeah.
3, 4. I got 5.
Yeah.
I got 5 too.
Let me count yours.
Oh, no.
I got all the bottoms right, and then I got
You did?
and then the one
Oh
of
wow.
those.
Oh wow.
But you can't count your own.
Yeah, you can't count your own. Oh, maybe I did
I got it
So
right.
you each got 4.
too. Well, 1, 2. Okay.
Well,
yeah.
You
4.
counted. You
We'll look
counted
it over.
yours down here.
Did
What is
you get
that?
4?
I don't know.
No,
All
I got-
right.
what
That was
I
fun.
got
Okay.
one,
And so we got to
2,
clear our
3,
palates so we
4.
can come back and finish the show. But I don't know. Did we have anything that went on this week? We didn't have an email. So, well, we did have an emael. It looked like fellowshipofbelievers.org's name is going to expire here pretty soon. So we
Uh-oh.
gotta, yeah.
Okay.
So
Wow, that's pretty
Gotta redo the
substantial.
What
domain.
about
it was a fake email address, so I don't think it's true.
the weekend in Texas?
The
Yeah.
weekend in Texas, the ones that the girls are on their way
Right.
to.
Yeah.
They're on their way to. The Kroenke family is putting on an evangelism weekend over there in College Station. Go to Texas A&M University, go pass out tracts and things like that. So a couple of our daughters went out there and going to pass out tracts and do whatever they're going to do.
Yeah.
So that's this weekend. So that's good. So by the time you hear this, it's over.
Yeah.
So you can't join up.
I had a very busy week.
Did you?
Yeah, so Elizabeth was home this week.
Oh, that's right.
She came home Saturday and brought Jubal with her. We
Jubal.
met
I always
her
want to say
boyfriend.
Jubal Kane.
Yeah, it kind of comes to your mind, doesn't
I know,
it?
right?
Yeah, but, really enjoyed the time with them. It was very busy. We packed a lot in. We wanted to spend time with them, so I'm a little dragging today because
Yeah.
we have been going, but it was really good. Good time.
Oh, that's good. That's good. We didn't do anything really. We're just
Bible bee. That's
Bible being work. That's our life at this
and
point.
rearrange this room.
We did
yeah.
rearrange this room, and so if you do go look on YouTube, you can see it really didn't change that much. You know, we just the angles.
And we've been working on the garage.
Yes,
Some of us
slowly.
more than
I was
others.
gonna say the garage.
Well, evidently, we found out how unobservant I am, and the Grimms are living with us, and
Well,
they
ain't that the
realize,
truth?
yes, that
yeah.
is the truth. Yeah, yep. I'm so I walked into the garage and I know they've been working on it. I looked around and I was like, well, it's looking a little empty in here. It looks cleaner. And then I walk into the apartment there where Pam and Larry are, and I just started talking to them. And they said, well, did you notice the garage? I'm like, well, it was it's getting empty. It's kind of clean in there. And like, well, did you notice all of our stuff is gone? And I was like, no, I didn't actually.
And it was a lot of stuff.
And I was actually looking.
Probably 85% of everything that was in there.
So obviously, I'm not very observant.
That's okay.
Well,
We
I
love
think
you
we should
anyway.
say why we're cleaning it out.
Because you're moving?
Well, no.
They're moving into the garage?
I mean, the whole push to get it clean.
Is to work on the garage?
Well, yeah. For what?
For a new studio?
To build, hopefully build a
I feel like this
studio.
is a new game now we're doing. Let's guess what we're doing.
20 questions.
The winner is.
We're going to build a studio.
Another studio.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So one that we don't have wires dragging all
Yeah.
over the place, and we shall see. Well, one that we don't have to worry about angles. Like right now, we can't have a camera looking that way because that would look ridiculous. If I grabbed one of the cameras and showed you, no, I'm not going to do that because Joshua would get mad
at you.
Yeah. So it's kind of a mess over there. But actually, it's not a mess. It just would make no sense. So anyway, that's enough of that. So we will be right back and finish our discussion on evil spirits.
Thank you for listening to the Mike Charleston Show.
All right, we are back, and that was game time with Abigail. So, not with Abigail, with Pam. So that was good. We had some candy and all that. We actually did a thing one time, guys, where we had, 30-some candy bars.
Oh,
Yeah.
And we rated them, and we had cut little pieces off for our candy, for our kids. So our kids were like sugared up.
I bet they were.
Yes, and we found out our favorite candy bars, and we don't eat that many candy
You know
bars,
what?
but
We should do that with ice cream.
Yeah, I'm all
why?
for that.
Well, I mean, I'm all for that. I think chocolate would win for me, but
But we still would like to rate them just because some things may rank higher
that's a
than you
little
think.
bit more expensive than candy bars.
well, yeah.
Yeah, we'd all have
That's
to
true.
pitch in on that one.
How many 30 ice creams? I'd be like, man, I think I'm getting a little loaded here. Okay, so what we were talking about right before we took the break there was all these verses, all these things, the divination, the observer of times, enchanter, witch, God forbids all these things, right?
Yep.
So when it comes to Halloween, where should we stand? And you don't need to know all the history, and we'll get into that shortly here. We don't need to know all the history of Halloween to know that is about what? What is it about? When you think of, if you didn't know anything about it and you just watched around all the decorations, what is it about?
The celebration of the dead.
Pretty much. You see skeletons, you see witches, you see evil, spooky spiders, spider webs, graveyards. I said the only Christian thing with this holiday is the little cross on the tombstones that you see. And that's it. But that's what you see, and that's what is associated. So I don't care how you clean it up, that is still what's associated. And that's the kind of the problem here. So, but God is not a God of the dead. He's the God of the living. And Halloween is all about death and the dead, and like what you were just saying, Chuck, it's kind of like the Day of the Dead, and that's actually what it's called in Mexico, right? Day of the Dead, and they have all kinds of celebrations for the dead.
Yeah,
and
they all dress up like skeletons.
and if you're the Catholic Church, the dead it's not over, right?
Right.
They go to purgatory,
Yeah.
and they can still go to heaven. They can still make it.
Buy their way out.
Yeah, you can pay for your indulgence. But God is a God of life, and that's what Jesus said, I am the resurrection and the life. He also said that I have come to bring life and more abundantly. He's not a God of death, even though our God did die, but he rose from the dead, and he is a God of life, and he's come to give us life and to give eternal life. And that is the key thing when it comes to Halloween. And do I want to participate in it? And we'll get into that shortly, hopefully. Mark 12:27, babe. What's that say?
He is not the God of the dead, but the God of the living.
Yep, I think I just quoted that.
Yeah,
okay,
you did.
John 11:25.
This is the one you just quoted. Jesus said unto her,
Okay.
I am the resurrection and the life. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live.
So that's our side. That is the side that we should be on. We're on the side of light. We're not on the
Right.
side of dark. We're on the side of life, not on the side of death. And Halloween is not a celebration of life. It is a celebration of death. To me, that's obvious. I mean, we were talking about earlier, when did we stop celebrating? I stopped celebrating, I think, when I was 5 years old. Or my family, my mom and dad said, no, we're Christians now. We're not celebrating this. And that was fine with me.
Yeah.
Did you go trick-or-treating when you were a kid?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And you stopped when you were like,
I want to say 10, 12, somewhere around there.
Right. Your parents pulled the plug.
Actually, it was more the church kind of woke up to it.
Oh, okay.
At that point.
Interesting. Oh. Did they do trunk and treat for you then?
For a little bit, probably.
Okay,
I don't know if they still. I mean, at the church where I grew up, so I don't remember exactly.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Larry?
We used to go to the neighborhoods.
Okay. So you did all the way up to your
14,
45, whatever.
Yeah, so last year. No, I didn't.
And did you ever go knock on doors?
I did, but probably stopped when I was 5 or 6.
Okay, so like me, yeah,
I went to harvest parties every year.
Good.
Oh yeah.
But here's the funny thing I was thinking about. That we will go knock on doors to go get candy from strangers and celebrate be a part of a celebration that is evil and wicked, but we won't go knock on doors to win people for the lost.
You put it like that.
I know, right?
Kind of steps on toes.
Well,
especially mine.
Kind of true. Okay, so here's a little history lesson, and it's time for a history time, and we'll get through this pretty quickly here. You guys did a lot of studying on the history part of it, right?
So, not a lot, but some.
Okay. So let's the ancient Celtic festivals of Samhain or something like that.
I think I saw 2 different pronunciations for that. And
okay.
One was
Ichabod.
No,
okay.
Sohim.
Oh, okay.
And the other
That's
was
Swami?
Swamhim or something like that.
I saw the so one. I was like,
Silvery?
I saw
Swimmery?
Something like that. I don't know. Samsonite. Yeah.
I knew it. But anyway, Samhain or whatever it is.
Yeah, whatever it is. I guess it's Celtic or Gaelic, maybe.
Yeah.
So,
and when the people would light bonfires and wear costumes to ward off ghosts. So
this goes back to the idea that they celebrated, where they thought that this particular time of the year was when we talked about earlier, where the spirit world and the physical world got closest, and the veil between them were the thinnest, and they could actually interact. So they did these things to ward off.
Yeah, why they thought that, I don't know, but they thought that, and so if we dress like them, we're going to trick them. Is that the idea?
Yeah, that was part of the tradition of dressing up was especially they dress up their children so that they would look like ghouls and demons and animals or whatever, so that the evil spirits would see them and say, oh, well, they're not kids, they're one of us.
Right, because for a second there, I thought that was a kid with a sheet on his head, but no, it's just a ghost. It's one of us.
But it was that superstition, and I think just like, I'll probably step on some toes, but like Christmas, it was coming into winter, which they viewed as the death,
right?
The sort of that earth worship, death is coming, and this is the beginning of the celebration. Right. Get the harvest in before the dead of winter sets in. And
so what else did they believe?
Well, there's so many, like the jack-o'-lantern.
Yep,
it was
to ward off spirits,
right? And one tradition was that Jack. Whoever, I can't remember exactly.
Oh, Lantern?
Well, he was.
Was he Irish? Oh, Lantern.
Yeah, that's right. He wasn't allowed in heaven and he wasn't allowed in hell. He was just stuck to roam the earth.
Oh, poor Jack.
So they would carve these pumpkins. The Scottish would carve turnips.
Turnips?
Yeah, because what else is a good use for turnips rather than...
That's a good point.
Carve them
good
up.
For the Irish.
Yeah.
Good for
the Scottish.
Whatever.
The Scottish did the turnip.
Yes.
But it was a means to ward off that spirit, Jack, that old devil.
Yeah, well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And so, the Celtics actually held it during that time of the year. So it was fall going into winter.
Right.
So it was around 1st of November.
Now, actually, I heard someone say that you don't know their roots because it's a Christian. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Yeah. And I guess what they were referring to was that at this time, later on, so in the 8th century, Pope Gregory III made November 1st a time to honor All Saints Day. We came into this. So I'm guessing sometime after the 8th century, as part of all this, they would have some poor people would go to the rich people and say that they were going to pray for their dead loved ones if they got some treats or some
soul cakes.
Soul cakes,
yeah.
Right. So I don't know at what point that got introduced, and maybe that's like the trick-or-treating entrance, because at first I don't think they did trick-or-treating. They just dressed up.
Well, that trick-or-treating tradition came from you would set things out for the spirits.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Either that or so that they wouldn't do a trick on your house.
Oh,
some kind of evil on your house. So
you live it out for it. So when they woke up and no one ate it, did they not put two together like, hey, no one's eating our food?
Maybe
The homeless guy, he had
Dad got up at night and came.
That's kind of like Santa Claus.
Yeah,
right?
like Santa Claus.
Oh man!
Well, but the Pope had to make it a Christian holiday because they kept trying to get the Christians, Catholics, whoever, to not celebrate it, and because.
Yes, the Catholic Church. I was like, I didn't touch anything, but that was Joshua. Okay. The Catholic Church. We mentioned the Catholic Church. Sorry.
Right. So they had to make it a holy day. So that's when the All Saints Day came in.
Right after it.
So,
right.
Yeah.
So here's the bizarre thing is you have the Catholics mess up everything, right? They have to make a holiday after everything. They can't change the pagans. So how about we incorporate something? Here's you want to say something real quick?
Oh, no, I was going to say just it's tradition. The Catholic Church does that with all the holidays.
That's the interesting thing I was sharing with you earlier that actually saw that the All Saints Day actually was something that was that was originally started in the 7th century, a different pope, but it was actually originally in May, is from the reading I saw, and that Pope Gregory III actually moved it to the specific day, and some of the thoughts behind that was that they actually were trying to reach the Celtic people whenever they were celebrating this bad thing and bring them into the Catholic Church, into Christianity.
Yeah,
the idea was to provide. Same thing we see with some of our churches today, provide something different than Halloween.
Yes, and it didn't really work because who knows anything about All Saints Day? But here's an interesting thing about All Saints Day. So we live down here in Louisiana, and the New Orleans Saints, the football team, is down here. The reason why they are called the Saints, it's a very Catholic area, and they were actually created on All Saints Day. So that's why they are the Saints. So a little trivia note for you there. So anyway, we're moving on. The evening before was known as All Hallows Eve, and where it became Halloween. That's kind of where instead of saying All Hallows Eve, Halloween, so that's where Halloween comes from.
Right.
So anyway, at this point, I don't know, we have a bunch of other verses here, other mentions of the work of Satan and his devils, and we're running low on time, but I wanted to mention... because there's like 1 Samuel 16:4, but the Spirit of the Lord departed from Saul, and an evil spirit from the Lord troubled him. And Satan and his devils possess people and cause harm. I think that's obvious. The devil possession is when Jesus cast devils out. So basically, Satan blinds people from the truth. He promotes false doctrines. In 2 Corinthians 4:4, in whom the God of this world hath blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the glorious gospel of Christ, who is the image of God, should shine unto them. And in 1 Timothy 4:1, I know you talked about 4:7, I think. He deceives people by disguising as an angel of light.
Yeah.
And that's how Satan comes to us. He doesn't come to us with a pitchfork and horns. I mean, we know that. We know that trick.
Yeah.
We know who you are. But I don't want to just throw those off, but those are a couple of verses. The basic thing that we were trying to get across there was that these are real things, and we're messing with things that we should have no business messing with. And you start dabbling in these things like the Ouija board and all these things. There's actual power in those things.
Yeah, I had recently listened to a different podcast. I won't throw that out who that is, but the host was actually interviewing a young lady who so I've only been a Christian for about a year, and prior to that, she was doing these things.
Okay.
And to see her and listen to her actually tell you about them from somebody who practiced them and experienced them and was part of it, and not really from a dark place, but it brings it to, it makes it much more real to understand, because once she actually came out of it, when she saw the truth through the scriptures and was saved, she couldn't do it anymore. As there was a point in time where she tried to mix the two, and obviously realized that she couldn't do that. But interesting to hear somebody who goes from one to the other, and it makes it a much more clear picture of what it's like.
Yeah,
you brought up a good point. There. Yeah, that's Satan comes as an angel of light, and we want to. It's easy to recognize the evil stuff. We say, all the skeletons, the death, and all that.
If someone knocks on my door and it's a skeleton, I'm going to know what that is. Right. I'm like, oh, this isn't a good guy.
But the Bible also says that, I think it's in Genesis, that the serpent was more subtle than all the beasts. Yep. Subtlety is a good way of deceiving.
Absolutely.
Because it seems like it's coming in as a good thing. We were reading an article earlier about they don't participate. They don't celebrate. They participate.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that. Yeah.
And I'm like, what's the difference? But
what's the difference?
And so they also said, I think it was the same article. They said, well, they don't encourage their kids to dress up in bad costumes.
Right.
They do
just
wholesome,
the good ones.
just the good ones. And I'm like, well, you're doing the same thing, but you're just sugarcoating it.
Pretty
you're
much.
making it look good, but it's still the evil practice. So.
It makes it's slight, it's subtle, very subtle.
And what's the difference between some of these other holidays with the imagery, and the history of it, the paganism?
Now this says, this is not for the show, but interesting to read. But I'm going to go ahead and read it.
Read it.
This is from the Focus on the Family. So we looked around on some of these other popular places that families might go to check out, and Focus on the Family. This is a quote from their website, and it says, certain features of the modern observance of Halloween strike us as being nothing but harmless fun. Children love dressing up, and we see no reason to stop them as long as their costumes are tasteful and non-occultic in theme. And okay, are you going to be the occult judge, I guess?
Yeah.
They also enjoy getting candy and goodies from the neighbors. Who wouldn't? And showing off their outfits from door to door. From our perspective, there's nothing objectionable about the part of Halloween. It's hard to imagine a more innocent or childlike activity than trick or treating. This assumes, of course, that parents take precautions to provide for safe and reliable supervision before allowing their children to participate. So this one kind of disgusts me. This is Focus on the Family. This is without James Dobson anymore, but this is all they're concerned about is the safety of the children and the physical harm. Like make sure they don't get poisoned, or make sure there's no child snatchers out there, because there's a bunch of perverts out at Halloween, and they don't care about their spiritual side.
Right.
And I was asking Sarah this question: how does a non-Christian family, a non-spiritual family, describe Halloween to a kid? You know, with all the trappings that are out there, all the decorations, and they're like, Daddy, why the skeletons? Why the spiders? Why are we hanging up, this guy that's hanging from a noose? And why do we have a guy with an axe, in the yard? And why is there all
Haunted
these
houses?
Yeah, why? I'm always curious what their answer would be. You know what I'm saying? Like we're always coming from a Christian perspective.
Right.
And our Christian perspective is because it's wrong. We don't do it. And so, but for them and for family, for Focus on the Family to say that it's, because the kids like to do this. Well, that's like saying, well, guess what? Teenagers, they like to have sex. So it's all right.
It's fun.
Like, no, it's not. Just because they like to do certain things. You know what? Beer makes some people drunk. People like it. So it's okay.
It's okay. As long as you're safe about it.
That's right. That just kind of really disgusted me. And this came from Family Life. Now, they were a little bit more better, I guess.
More good.
They had a couple different things. I don't know which one we wanted to read here. This one was, it says, we don't celebrate, quote unquote, celebrate Halloween at our house. We participate in it carefully. I make it clear to my kids that we don't celebrate evil. We don't decorate with ghosts or zombies. We use fall pumpkins, mums, and hay. The kids aren't allowed to dress up as anything evil or demonic. And so that was their thing, that they don't celebrate it,
right.
They just participate in it. And my question was, and your question was, what's the difference?
What's the difference?
How do you participate and not celebrate something?
I don't know.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's hard for me to imagine how I can participate in this and not celebrate. The only thing I could think of was a friend of ours. What they would do on Halloween is they would actually dress up their car or whatever, and they would actually dress up things and be scary. They had like this whole dress up thing, and then they would pass out tracts and had lure people into their house, or by their house, not in their house. That sounds bad. Come into my dungeon here. But they would dress up, a coffin or something, and have, people dressed up as evil because it's death, and you need to think about this, and then hand people tracts. And so they would use it as an evangelism thing. Okay, I get that. And the kids aren't participating in the fun aspect. They're actually in the aspect of evangelism. And that's fine, whatever. They did that with Hell's Gates, Heaven's Gates, Hell's Flames, that type of thing, where they're showing the evil side of the realities of evil, and yikes. So it wasn't a haunted house, but it was, this is sin, and this is what the results of sin. So these ministries, I don't understand the the aspect where it's okay to participate.
Right.
And,
Well, that's part of the deception, because deception is you don't know it until it's kind of too late. Because if you knew you were being deceived, then you're not being deceived.
oh, what is that? A frog in warm water doesn't know he's being boiled until it's too late.
Yeah.
And he's dead. But it's one of those things that we are to come out from among them. We are coming into this promised land, Now, obviously, we're not Jews going into the promised land, but don't participate in all these things. And we treat it as fun. This is fun stuff. It's just for fun, Mike. Get a grip, It's for fun. But is it? Is it fun? Is there ever such thing as just fun, which is
harmless fun?
Right. Is there ever you get involved and at the end of the day, going getting candy, is that the worst thing in the world? No, but it just lightens the fact that it's almost like pretend. Like these things don't exist and
it's not real.
Right.
It's just we're just having fun.
But there's a real evil out there, and there's a real devil, and we need to be aware of that. So anyway, I don't know, any last words? That's a weird thing to say on our well, any last words?
There is that story in Acts chapter 8 with Simon.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
He was a diviner, I guess, or into witchcraft, and supposedly got saved. And then Peter, when he saw people getting healed and had the Holy Spirit given, and he wanted to buy it.
Right.
Because he thought, wow, these people have some power I didn't have when I was in witchcraft, and can I buy it from you?
Yep. No, there's power.
Right.
Like he understood that there's power on this side too, and there's power on the bad side. And I'm going to go with Jesus.
Right.
Christ has the power, all the power. God has power, and He has the good power. And you want to tap into that. Why do you want to use your power? What do you want to use your powers for? Like that we have powers, But God's power is to save.
Right.
That's instant to deliver.
The other thought I had was we talk about Halloween and the tradition and the paganism where it comes from, but what about the other holidays?
Well, that's the other thing. They have another.
That's what one of them said.
Most of them will all say that it's no different than Christmas or Easter when you study their history. And I'm like, yeah, exactly.
The history is pagan, but that's not a good reason not to celebrate.
Yeah, we'll forget that part, and we'll just.
Well, like I was telling the kids, I can understand Christmas somewhat. They dress it up. They dress it up as more Christian.
Well,
at least there's a baby Jesus in somewhere.
But is it the same?
Well, no, but I understand. That's coming up. We've already had an episode on that or something. But I don't know how you can justify Halloween. I mean, there's no baby Jesus. There's no, like I said, the only Christian thing about it is the cross on the tombstones that these zombies are coming out of. So it's not even like Easter where, okay, what's the resurrection of Christ? And I'm like, but but it's the okay, I get it. I understand on that level. Halloween, there's
no Christian parallel.
Right.
No. That's why the Catholics had to change it to All Saints Day. Or All
change
Hallows
it to there. Well, now we got to move to make it a Reformation Day.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. I meant to mention that.
Because Martin Luther did nail his 95 Theses on October 31st.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, Reformation Day. Yeah.
Reformation Day.
So that's why it's also Reformation Day, because he did do it on that day. But why do we have to dress up like Martin Luther? I mean,
And how do we know what he looked like?
Well, because he had a bald head and those silly monk things.
Well, that was another Catholic tradition that was from paganism. It was sort of to match the sun.
Was it really?
Yeah, for the sun god.
Wow.
That's
so bizarre.
Shave their head in a round shape as a disc, as honoring the sun god.
They look like dopes.
Well, that's where it comes from. That's the Pope's mitre is from the Dagon.
Yeah.
And all that. So
as you said for our last word, I think the bigger picture here, if we take a step back, even looking at a holiday, but just take a step back and ask yourself the question, why do you do what you're doing?
Right. Oh, yeah. That's a good question. Good point.
If you're going to participate in anything, why?
Right.
Is there a purpose? Examine it. Determine whether it's good. Look at the things you're doing now. Take a look at yourself in the mirror and look and see, do I need to change? Or is there a reason that I'm doing this? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it evil? We need to consider the things we allow ourselves to participate in.
Absolutely. And that's all of life, honestly. But these are kind of serious issues and some people they may listen to this and be like, we still have fun. That's your call. I mean, you've got to make your decisions, but we're just warning you that these things can be dangerous, that you tread you better tread very lightly because you're entering in a world you do not understand, and it's a trick.
And you don't belong.
You don't belong there. Right. That's right. And I think the devil knows that, and I think he's very pleased that we've lessened it. It is the number 2 holiday in all of our holidays, the number 2 of money spent.
In the United States.
Is Halloween.
Well, and if you want to say it's about the candy, just wait till next week. That's after Halloween, and you get it cheap.
We've done that in the past. Like, look, man, it's 59 cents for a bag of M&Ms with orange and yellow, or not orange and yellow, orange and black. Orange and black M&Ms.
Yeah, I always just hope that my buddy at work that buys all this candy for the kids, that nobody shows up at his door because he brings it to work.
So let me tell you this. This is the one thing that annoys me is, you need to pass out real candy. Okay, no, you shouldn't pass on the candy. But all that stuff with the waxy orange stuff and the wax lips and the candy corns, all that's garbage, man. Yeah. It's nasty. But no.
Well, I think Chuck brought up a good point about why. Why do you do this? Is it, and with I think some people are wondering, is it a sin to celebrate Halloween or should Christians celebrate? But I think, like Chuck said, you should ask yourself why.
Right.
Why do you want to participate?
Why do we want to do this? Why are we participating in this?
Or celebrating, whichever you want to use.
Celebrating, participate. But yeah, that was a big discussion in our household this week was, if it's wrong, then is it sin? And I'm like, not always, but it's just because something is wrong. I know it's wrong for me, that's for sure. And I think it's wrong for other Christians to participate. But I'm not necessarily going to call it sin. I don't know where they are in their walk and where God has brought them to. So I'll leave that between them and God.
And just because you can do something, does that mean you should?
No.
Exactly.
No. So on that note, I think that is it. We've gone over time like usual, but that is okay. I think this was a good one. I know the church is becoming less and less. And I know you had that one saying that, I forget how it came out, but you were saying that the church is becoming weak on these issues. No one can just say this is wrong anymore. We all have to accept everything that's out there, and we can't just say, I think this is wrong.
Very disturbing, because I searched and searched for why Christians shouldn't celebrate Halloween, obviously knowing that I don't think it's good.
And we're afraid.
And it was really hard to find. I found many websites where they would say, this is what Halloween's about, and here's the scriptures to show why we don't do these things. But then at the end, it's like, but as long as you do it with a pure conscience, it doesn't really matter. And I'm
what
like,
does that mean?
I know. Well, and as you know on this show, if you've listened to the show for many months and years or whatever, we're not afraid to tell you our opinion. And we're not ashamed to say it's wrong. I think it's wrong. And if you don't like it, you can email us at poundsand anyway, kid. All right. I think that's it. Joshua, why don't you get us out of here, and we will check you next week.
Hi, I'm Joshua Charleston, the producer for The Mike Charleston Show. If you enjoy listening to the show, please help us spread the word by liking, subscribing, sharing, leaving a review, or just tell a friend. If you're watching on YouTube, feel free to leave a comment down below. If you'd like to be a part of the show, please email us at talk@fellowshipofbelievers.org. We look forward to hearing from you.
We hope you enjoyed listening to The Mike Charleston Show. The Mike Charleston Show.